Before you begin, ask yourself, what would you do if your family had been lying to you for 7 years? Family, a word that should mean love and trust. But sometimes, the ones closest to you are the ones who betray you the most. Have you ever felt like your own family was taking advantage of you? Have you given them everything, only to be left alone when you needed help the most? Have you spent years believing you were doing everything for your family, only to one day realize that, to them, you were nothing more than a financial resource? This is the story of Olivia Bennett, a strong, independent woman who was exploited by her own family for 7 years. She spent nearly $200,000 on them without so much as a thank you. And then she discovered that her younger sister had a $500,000 trust fund while she received nothing. She had been deceived, not by strangers, but by her own flesh and blood. But Olivia didn't break. She fought back and took back what was rightfully hers. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a journey of strength, self-discovery, and taking control. Are you ready to dive into this story? Because after reading it, you might never look at family the same way again. Let's begin. Down. The night. The truth unraveled. Night had fallen. The moon cast a silver glow over Bear Lake, its reflection shimmering on the still water. A cool breeze swept through the air, carrying a damp chill that made Olivia shiver. She sat on the plush sofa in the expansive living room of the vacation home, a place she once thought held cherished family memories. But tonight, all she could feel was deception. On the glass table in front of her, a single bill lay in plain sight. A silent declaration of war. Amount due, $18,750. Property tax for the vacation home. Deadline, 10 days. And just like always, her father, Richard Bennett, had assumed she would pay it. His voice was calm, but the expectation was unmistakable. Olivia, are you going to write the check for this? The deadline is coming up. A simple question, but one that carried the weight of years of unspoken obligation. She lifted her gaze to her father, Richard Bennett, a powerful man, always composed. Yet beneath that exterior was a quiet, unwavering control. Beside him, her mother, Margaret Bennett, a woman who rarely spoke up in family conflicts, her eyes always avoiding confrontation. And then there was Madison Bennett, her younger sister, effortlessly privileged, enjoying every luxury without ever having to lift a finger. Olivia was used to paying for the family's major expenses, but this time, she was done. For 5 years, she had paid every single property tax on this vacation home. She had covered Madison's car payments when her sister claimed she couldn't afford it. She had paid for their mother's medical bills when insurance didn't cover everything. She had funded extravagant family vacations she rarely allowed herself to enjoy. And what did she get in return? A demand, an expectation. She inhaled deeply, her voice calm but razor sharp. Do you really think I'm going to pay for this again? The room fell into a heavy silence. Her father frowned, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Of course. Family helps each other, Olivia. Family helps each other. But why had they never helped her? Her voice was steady, but each word cut through the air like a blade. Then why am I the only one paying for everything? Richard straightened his posture, his tone darkening. You make the most money in this family. If you don't help, who will? A simple sentence, yet it revealed everything. They never saw it as her helping. They saw it as her duty. She had money, so she had to pay. She was successful, so she wasn't allowed to say no. But this time, she was saying no, Her voice was firm. "No, I'm not paying anymore." The entire room froze. Margaret looked up, shocked, too afraid to speak. Madison smirked, arms crossed. "You're overreacting, Olivia. You make good money. This is nothing for you." Nothing? A slow, simmering rage built inside Olivia, her voice deadly calm. "Then why don't you pay for your own damn car?" Madison shrugged, nonchalant. "You always said you'd help." And that was the problem. Olivia had helped. But they had never stopped taking. She had worked tirelessly to build her success. Not to be her family's personal ATM, she had given without complaint. But the moment she stopped, they turned against her. Her kindness had been exploited. She was tired of carrying the financial weight of her entire family. And for the first time in her life, Olivia said no. Her father slammed his palm against the table, his eyes burning with anger. "Olivia, do you think you got here on your own? We raised you. We provided for you. And now when we need you, you turn your back on us." They had raised her? But what had they done for her since she became an adult? Who helped her pay for college? No one. Who helped her buy her first apartment? No one. Who was there when she needed an emergency loan? No one. So why was she expected to be there for them? Olivia met her father's gaze, her voice unwavering. "I don't owe you anything." The silence was suffocating. Richard said nothing, just stared at her. Margaret twisted the ring on her finger, as if searching for a way to calm the situation. Madison still smirked, but this time, there was a flicker of nervousness in her eyes. They couldn't believe it. Olivia was serious this time. But it wasn't over yet. Minutes later, Olivia discovered a truth that would change everything. A folder sat on the table, a trust fund, $350,000, money that had been secretly set aside for Madison. In that moment, Olivia realized she had been lied to for years, and now she was ready to take back what was rightfully hers. Olivia Bennett, the independent woman who was exploited Olivia Bennett. 33 years old, she was never the type to rely on anyone. A self-made stock trader. She built her career from scratch. No one had ever handed her anything. Every bit of success she achieved was the result of hard work and relentless discipline. From a young age, she understood one thing. If she wanted something, she had to earn it herself. At 18, she applied for college scholarships because her parents told her they had no money to support her. For 4 years, she worked 12-hour shifts, juggling restaurant jobs, tutoring, and studying. After graduation, she bought her first apartment, without a single cent of help from her family. When her car broke down, she saved for a year to fix it. Meanwhile, Madison got a brand new car for her 18th birthday, fully paid for by their parents. Olivia had always been independent, but what she hadn't realized was that her family had used her independence as an excuse to push all financial burdens onto her shoulders. And it all began the moment she started making real money. Richard Bennett, the manipulative father who only cared about money. Richard Bennett, a seasoned businessman. He had once run a successful construction company. But in recent years, his business had stagnated. Richard was a man who needed to control everything, especially his family's finances. He was not the kind of father who showed warmth or loved his children equally. He believed in a family hierarchy where Madison was the priority and Olivia was the financial provider. He never asked Olivia to pay for things. He forced her to, making her feel guilty if she refused. "We raised you, gave you a good life. Now that you're wealthy, you have a duty to give back. Madison isn't as capable of making money as you are. The family has to support her. If you don't help, who will?" manipulation, guilt tripping, twisting responsibility into obligation. But the truth was, Richard was never broke. He didn't want to use his own money, he wanted to use hers. Margaret Bennett, the silent mother who never took Olivia's side. Margaret Bennett, 60 years old, a quiet woman, who had spent her life in Richard's shadow. She never spoke up against his decisions. She loved both daughters, but never dared to defend Olivia, even when she knew Olivia was being treated unfairly. Whenever Olivia asked why Madison was always given more, her mother's only answer was, "Madison is weaker than you? She needs more help." But Olivia wasn't weak. That didn't mean she didn't deserve help. Yet, her mother always chose silence, even when she knew Olivia was being used. Madison Bennett, the privileged younger sister. Madison Bennett, 29 years old, spoiled her entire life, never worked a hard day in her life. Everything she had, her car, vacations, savings account, all paid for by their parents. Madison never saw the injustice in how Olivia was treated. And worse, she didn't care. When Olivia asked why Madison was always taken care of, her response was simple. "Mom and Dad just want to secure my future. You're stronger than me. You're stronger than me, so you have to suffer?" That was why Madison never felt guilty when Olivia paid for everything. To Madison, Olivia's financial support was just a given. But this time, Olivia had said no. Olivia's life. Before everything fell apart, Olivia had never questioned her family. She believed they loved her equally. She trusted them when they said they had no money to help with college. She believed them when they said they were struggling financially. But everything she believed was a lie, until that fateful night when she discovered the $350,000 trust fund set aside for Madison. Her family wasn't broke. They just chose not to help her. They didn't prioritize her, not because she didn't need help, but because they saw her independence as a reason to abandon her. That night, Olivia finally realized she had been used all along, and she wasn't going to let it continue. Our main tree augury. Everything changed. The room fell into a deadly silence, a silence so thick it was suffocating. A folder sat on the table, the trust fund. Beneficiary, Madison Bennett. Total amount, $350,000. Started 7 years ago. The same year Olivia struggled to pay her college tuition. This was the moment that changed everything. She lifted her gaze to her father, her voice sharp as ice. "Would you care to explain this, Dad?" Richard Bennett met her eyes, but there was no regret in his expression, only irritation. "This isn't your concern." That response almost made Olivia laugh. Not her concern? What about the hundreds of thousands she had spent on the family? She had thought her family was struggling. She had believed them when they said they were struggling. She had believed she was helping them through hard times. But the truth? They were never struggling. They chose not to help her. Instead, they funneled all their money into Madison's trust fund. She'd been used, her fists clenched, her voice cold as steel. "For years, you told me you had no money to help with my college tuition, but somehow you managed to create a trust fund for Madison? Care to explain?" Her mother lowered her head, avoiding Olivia's gaze. Madison simply shrugged, as if this was just another casual conversation. "Mom and Dad just wanted to secure my future," Madison said smoothly. "You're stronger than me." She was stronger? So she had to suffer? She had worked day and night to pay for her education. She had scraped by, struggling to build a stable life. Meanwhile, her parents had been secretly saving hundreds of thousands for Madison. And Madison? She never had to work for any of it, so who was truly selfish? In that moment, Olivia realized she had never truly belonged in this family. not because she wasn't their daughter, but because she had never been treated as an equal. The family's reaction when confrontation hits its peak. Olivia slammed the folder onto the table. Her sharp gaze cut through all three of them. Why didn't you just say it outright? That I was never as important as Madison? For the first time in her life, Olivia was no longer calm. She was done with the emotional manipulation, done with being forced to sacrifice for them. Richard slammed his fist against the table, his voice rising in anger. Olivia, don't act like a victim. We raised you. We gave you everything. Everything? Olivia let out a laugh, a sharp, cold laugh that sent chills through the room. Her voice, deadly calm. Tell me, Dad, what exactly have you given me? She stared straight at him, daring him to answer. A car? Number she had to buy her own. College tuition? Number she had to work 12-hour shifts to afford it. Startup money for a business? Number. She had built her career from the ground up, alone. They had never given her anything. But Madison got everything. And now they still expected Olivia to keep paying for the family. This time, she wouldn't. Olivia stood up, her voice calm, yet filled with unshakable power. I'm not paying another cent. The entire room went still. Her mother opened her mouth, but no words came out. Madison's eyes widened, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing, because, for the first time in her life, Olivia had truly fought back. She had said no, and this time she wasn't backing down. He had mortgaged the vacation home long ago to invest, but now he couldn't make the payments. Without Olivia, they had no way to cover the debt, and for the first time, they felt the loss of not having her. Madison lost her trust fund. She finally knew what it felt like to be abandoned. Margaret sent an apology text, but it was too late. Richard begged her for help, but this time, Olivia was no longer their obedient daughter. Olivia had walked away from their lives, and this time, she wasn't coming back. The day Olivia left, a farewell with no regrets, the day Olivia left the vacation home by Bear Lake, no one stopped her. Her mother watched silently, tears brimming in her eyes, but unable to say a word. Her father stood stiff, his face cold, but his fists clenched. He couldn't accept her defiance. Madison crossed her arms, her expression defiant. But in her eyes, Olivia saw something new, fear. They never thought Olivia would actually leave. They never imagined this day would come. But it had, and Olivia felt no regret. For the first time in her life, she felt free, no longer burdened by their financial expectations. No longer living under the weight of family obligations, she had finally freed herself. The Bennett family collapses. 3 months later, Olivia received a call from an unknown number. She ignored it. But a few minutes later, a text popped up. Madison here. Can we talk? Madison? Olivia frowned. It had been a long time since they last spoke. She opened the message. Olivia, it's bad. Mom and Dad are in trouble. The bank sent a foreclosure notice for the vacation home. If we don't pay, we're going to lose everything. Can you help? Olivia laughed, a cold, emotionless laugh. Now they realized her worth. She had once been the family's ATM. But when she walked away, everything fell apart. She had seen this coming. Her father had gambled the vacation home on a bad investment. Without Olivia covering property taxes, they couldn't afford to keep it. Madison no longer had a trust fund. It had already been used to cover other debts. For the first time, Madison knew what it meant to have nothing, and now she was begging Olivia for help. But Olivia had changed. She typed a short reply and hit send. Sorry, but that's not my problem. Then, she turned off her phone. When the truth came to light, Madison's breakdown. 3 days later, Olivia received an email from her mother. Subject line, "Olivia, we need to talk." But Olivia didn't respond. She no longer wanted anything to do with them. Then, one late evening, Madison appeared at Olivia's apartment. She looked completely different. Her hair was messy, dark circles under her eyes, her face tired and hollow. She was no longer the arrogant Madison Olivia had always known. Madison looked up at her sister, her voice trembling. "You were right. I was wrong." Olivia raised an eyebrow. She never thought she'd hear those words from Madison. Madison took a deep breath and continued. "I used to think you were selfish for leaving, but now I get it. You spent years helping this family, and they never once helped you." She hesitated before whispering, "I spoke to a lawyer. I saw the financial records. Olivia, you paid over $150,000 for this family in the last 5 years." Olivia wasn't surprised. She had always known. But Madison, she was in shock. "Mom and Dad never told me. I thought you just helped a little. I didn't know you carried everything." Olivia looked at her sister, and for the first time, she saw something real in her eyes. Madison finally understood the truth. But was it too late to change anything? 2 weeks later, Olivia received a call from the family lawyer. Something unexpected had happened. Madison had decided to walk away from the family. She demanded that all remaining assets be split, instead of everything going to their parents. She refused to take on their debts. She even hired a lawyer to investigate whether Olivia could reclaim the money she had paid over the years. Madison finally understood. Their parents had never been fair, and this time, she refused to be used any longer. This was the biggest twist Olivia never saw coming. Madison, the spoiled child who had been favored all her life, had turned her back on them. The Bennett family had officially fallen apart. The final fall of the Bennett family, Richard and Margaret lost the vacation home. Madison moved out. For the first time, she had to take care of herself. Olivia continued thriving in her career, finally free from family obligations. For the first time in her life, Olivia was completely free, and she had no regrets. A letter that would never be answered 3 months after the Bennett family collapsed. Olivia received a letter, not a text, not a phone call, but a handwritten letter from her mother, Margaret. For the first time in years, her mother truly wanted to talk. Olivia opened the letter, the shaky handwriting, every word heavy with regret. "Olivia, I know you will probably never respond to this letter, but I still wanted to write to you. I was wrong. I always knew what our family did to you was unfair, but I stayed silent because I was afraid of confronting your father. Now that your father has lost everything, now that Madison has left too, I realize I have lost the most important thing of all. You. You don't have to forgive me. I just need you to know that I am sorry. No matter what, I have always loved you. Mom." Olivia finished reading, but she didn't cry. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't hurt anymore. She only felt peace. She had made it through everything, but she didn't respond, because now her life was somewhere else, somewhere without the pain of the past. Lessons to learn from this story. 1. Your kindness is not an obligation. Helping others is a good thing. But when it becomes an expectation, you're being used. Olivia spent years carrying her family's burdens, only to realize that no one was truly grateful. 2. Family isn't always right. Just because someone is family doesn't mean they have the right to take advantage of you. Olivia learned that sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to walk away, even if it means leaving family behind. 3. The truth holds power. Madison lost everything when she finally learned the truth. She had never considered how much Olivia had sacrificed, and when she did, it changed her completely. 4. Never let others control your finances. Money is power. When Olivia took control of her finances, she took back her life. Never let anyone dictate how you spend your money, especially those who don't truly care about you. 5. Sometimes, letting go is the only way to find peace. Sometimes, the only way to find happiness is to walk away. Olivia chose her own life, and she never regretted that decision. The final chapter, Olivia's new life. 1 year later, Olivia stood on the balcony of her luxury apartment, gazing at the dazzling city lights. She had bought a new home, a new life, with no obligations to her past. For the first time in her life, she was truly happy. She had freed herself. And this time, no one could take that away from her. How did this story resonate with you? Have you ever been in a situation like Olivia's? Share your thoughts below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more powerful stories. Blast off.